Hello, world. This is Hello Chaos, the podcast all about the ups and downs, ins and outs, highlights and low points of entrepreneurship. I am your co-host, Jennifer Oladipo, aka Jen O.
And I'm Jennifer Sutton, aka, I guess, just Jen. We got to workshop my nickname.
That's right. Our last guest.
But we're the Jennifers.
The Jennifers.
Or the Jens. And today we have on our show, it is Dr. Gordon Jones. He's with Thrivacy. Hi, Gordon. Welcome.
Hello.
Yep. So that you just ruined my funny. I tell everybody. I tell everybody that, hey, don't call me Gordon. I just use that to get past the assistant. I'm making a phone call. So. Call me Gordon, just like you did. So that's a good deal.
Gotcha.
All right.
Well, it's good to meet you today. Not quite IRL, but we've been connecting over the internet and watching what you've been doing with blockchain advocacy. So we're really thrilled to have you today to just talk about building business in the blockchain space and also trying to actually build the blockchain space.
Yeah, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
There's some of it that's really easy and some of it that's really hard.
So could you start by just telling us a little bit about your company and what y'all are doing?
Sure. So Thrivacy is technically the brand of our digital wallet.
Okay.
That we'll talk about, but our company name is called Validide Corporation. And that came out of my course on blockchain and information sciences at the University of South Carolina. I teach in the College of Information and Communications.
Wow.
I'm a fellow in the iSchool, and I'm the entrepreneur in residence in the college, where I help the students and professors if they have ideas. I can kind of help them get them out into the public domain in some form or fashion that they may wish. But my students, so in all my courses, I teach entrepreneurship. So yes, I'm teaching technology. This is in the College of Information Communications,
okay,
which is not computer science.
Okay. Uh-huh.
So it's the School of Journalism, Library and Sciences, Mass Communications, PR, digital media, I call them the content creators.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And the content managers.
Mm-hmm.
So they have journalism, they create content, and then the library and sciences people manage that information is the way I kind of talk about it.
Got it.
So I'm in that school. So I teach what I call functional blockchain. So I don't have my students doing any coding.
Okay.
They are just learning the function of this new emerging technology. And then in our course, we apply it to a problem. I ask them to find or realize a problem they have at the beginning of the course. And then as we go through the course, we're learning about the technology, we're helping them to solve the problem and then determining whether this technology is going to help them solve that problem or not.
Okay. And
one of my students, Erica Barnett, she graduated this past May. Actually a year ago, past May. And her problem was securing student identity. So she wanted to try to figure out how to protect student identity. So for example, when you go down to they call it the entertainment district in Columbia, and the bartender or bouncer or whoever it is asks to see your ID to prove that you're over 21. She's sharing her name. She's sharing her home address, which may or may not be the one at school, and she's sharing her actual birth date. So those are three data points of which somebody could start stealing her identity.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the other one is the guy or girl now knows who she is and where she lives.
Right.
So there's a
Security.
there's a safety issue.
Yeah.
So that was her problem. And then my problem was I hadn't had a background check for employment since 1997 because I do my own thing, right? But when I was becoming an adjunct professor at USC, I had to go through that process, and it took them 3 months. I mean, it's crazy.
Whoa.
And my thing was why the heck isn't my beautiful, well-detailed LinkedIn profile verified and then turned in an immutable record that an employer would trust?
Right.
So what we did for Validity to come up with the idea of Validity was we meshed those two ideas together.
Okay.
So what Thrivacy is a digital wallet that holds your verified credentials, which includes your driver's license information. So your right to drive in South Carolina, your residency, your passport, all that, but then also your college degree, your work history, your A1 visa to right to work in the US,
Wow, okay.
or, a whole lot of things that employers would like. And so we launched that in January of 2021, and we've really been doing a lot of research and development the past year. But we do have what we call a minimal viable product that we're doing some beta testing on with the University of South Carolina. So we're issuing about 350 iSchool and JSchool college degrees in this verifiable credential digital asset format in a Thrivacy wallet for the students.
Oh, okay.
So that's a pilot that we're doing right now.
So can you give us just
so that's it. I mean, that's kind of the gestation of everything, but there's a boatload of more that comes up behind it.
Right.
Yeah.
So a lot of our audience is going to be pretty split. A lot of people are going to be like very tech savvy, and others will not really are still trying to figure out what the blockchain is. So do you have like a quick and dirty just to help them understand like how this becomes secure with blockchain technology?
Well, I do teach 20-year-olds, undergrads. So, and I won't get into the whole education level stuff.
Okay. Gotcha.
We'll skip that for right now. But and actually I've got a really cool thing that I'm working on right now where I'm converging how we got to blockchain. And it includes a history of money, a history of electricity, and a history of computer science to where they all mesh together. So in regards to blockchain technology, the problem we had was when we created computers and the internet, computer scientists and other people wanted to figure out how to create a digital currency. So we've been trying to create a digital currency since actually the 80s. The main problem with the whole thing is what we call the double spend problem. So we're talking about computer code, and what can you do with computer code? What did Bill Gates do with Microsoft Word as a computer as a coded based application? He duplicated it so quadrillion million people could buy it from him and use it on their computers.
Yeah.
So basically it's just copy and paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. So the problem with the double spend that we have in this world of computers and code is that what's going to keep me from copying this 25 cents worth of code and buying a piece of candy from this retailer and then taking that same code and going over here and spending that same 25 cents for a piece of candy at this other retailer. So which one has the real 25 cents of value that they can then pay their bills with?
Right.
So that's the problem we've had since the internet was created and people started working on this digital currency. Until 2008, we had no solution. So right along with the financial blow up and everything like that, it really didn't have anything to do with that, but the timing was very, very good. A group of people or an individual with the pseudonym of Satoshi Nakamoto wrote a white paper and published it on the internet in 2008. And it explained how we build this technology that will technically eliminate the double spend problem. And this paper was the Bitcoin white paper. And so if you think about it, so there's two aspects to this thing called Bitcoin. One is the Bitcoin cryptocurrency itself. And then the other that is really more innovative is the Bitcoin technology, blockchain technology. And basically what blockchain technology is it's you're familiar with a ledger, right? So you go look at your checkbook, you got credits and debits.
Right.
So the blockchain is basically a ledger. We call it a distributed ledger, to where every transaction is accounted for. And then in distributed means it gets put on thousands of computers around the world. And the reason it protects the double spend problem is, or prevents it, is if I do a transaction, it gets processed and put into this distributed ledger, and then a copy of it goes to 1,000 computers. If I try to redo that same transaction, this 25 cents for that piece of candy, then I might be able to do it on one ledger, but when it gets distributed to all the others, they're going to reject it because it's a duplication.
So they're like, you've already spent that.
So now the network is not going to say, okay, we agree with this transaction. And that's how we prevent this double spend problem that we have previously with digital currency. The cool thing is this blockchain technology that Satoshi Nakamoto invented can be used for millions of use cases, including protecting your identity, which is what our company is doing with this digital wallet called Thrivacy. So is that 8th grade enough for you?
That was perfect.
Good.
Thank you. Okay, so awesome tech conversation.
Right.
Now, how do you try to wade into that in terms of building a business? Because I feel like there's every other day somebody is trying to build some blockchain or announcing actually some new blockchain based
in all
business.
different industries and categories.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just across the board.
Here's it's kind of the same problem we've always had in creation of intellectual property and things that businesses can build on. So the Bitcoin blockchain technology was the first, and we call it a layer 1 technology. So basically you have the internet and the protocols of the internet that were created in the 60s and then kind of updated in the 70s, 80s, and 90s.
Right.
You had Tim Berners-Lee invent the World Wide Web. Okay. So that's a layer 1 technology on top of the core of the internet. So Tim Berners-Lee created one of the first layer 1 applications on top of the internet. Blockchain is a layer 1 technology as well. So you don't have to be in the World Wide Web to use a blockchain technology on the internet. Okay. Bitcoin, the cryptocurrency, is actually an application built on top of the Bitcoin technology. So the Bitcoin cryptocurrency is really separate from the Bitcoin blockchain technology, because people like Microsoft is actually building an identity platform similar to what we're doing, but they're building it on the Bitcoin blockchain technology. We're building ours on another one called Hyperledger. That's an open source blockchain managed by the Linux Foundation, who also created the Linux open source operating system. So now there are people, so from a business standpoint, there are computer guys around the world who have created new versions of this layer 1 Bitcoin technology. So that would be Ethereum, Cardano, Solana, a whole bunch of other ones that have been built. Those are considered layer 1 technologies that are built directly on the internet. And then from a more business perspective, then you start building applications on top of those using that functionality. And we call them, in regards to Ethereum, we call them these distributed applications. So like Microsoft's digital wallet technology built on the Bitcoin blockchain, that's an application built on the thing. So you have two business sectors there. You got the ones who are building the layer 1 functionality of the blockchain. And then you got people who are building applications on those blockchains.
And yours is the latter.
And then there's some of us who are building applications that can play on multiple blockchains. So you think of so the Bitcoin blockchain, think of it as a company like Apple. And the Ethereum blockchain, think of it as Microsoft. Two different operating systems that you have to design your business applications to work on this one or this one. Same thing with Android. All right. So you're building a mobile app. You're either building, you have to build two, right? One on iOS and one on Android, even though there's this React Native technology now that can kind of do both at the same time. But now we have 1,000 blockchain technologies out there, layer one technology. So now we as a business who want to create some kind of functionality using these things, we have to figure out which blockchain functions best or provides the best functionality for our business use case.
Okay.
In the world of decentralizing identity, which is what we're doing, the primary version of this is on a Hyperledger, which is that open source blockchain technology that is in the Linux. And then a version of it's called Indy, I-N-D-Y. And that's what we're using for identity. And there's thousands, there's governments, there's nonprofits, there's businesses who are adopting this format to manage identity. So that's why we chose it, because the standard of this identity management on the Hyperledger Indy blockchain is being adopted by governments and organizations around the world. So that's why we did that. But anyway, so two things: businesses that are building core layer one blockchains, and they mostly make transaction fees, and then application providers who are building applications that actually serve a business case. And then they would make theirs transactions or subscriptions like we do.
So when you created Validide as kind of the corporation, Thrivacy is just one of the product, because you could just determine different business cases and go, okay, this is another product, but you have the flexibility to go, this is more a functional, application to serve this, I guess, this business case. And it could be a whole different product in a whole different category and in a whole different industry.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, I will tell you, we kind of fell into this. So this is not my first startup.
Okay.
And it's also not my first cease and desist letter that I've gotten. So if you're a startup, you don't really have a startup until you get your first cease and desist letter. So that means you're not breaking the rules.
All right.
We did it.
Yeah. So Validide is VALIDIDE.
Okay.
Validide.com. So we changed the spelling thinking we could get a trademark and all that kind of stuff. Well, there's a company out there, and I can't say the name of it, but it includes a word in our name, and they do identity protection in regards to, they're the producer of secure documents. So the driver's license, the passport. So they're a paper security company, but they have a trademark paragraph that's like this long because they did it 30 years ago. And we fell into that, and they had just netted $60 million from the quarter that they sent us the letter in. So that means they pulled in about 300 million during that year, net.
Whoa.
So we were like, well, we can't fight those guys. So what we did was I negotiated with them. We were allowed to keep Validide, the name. We just couldn't trademark it. And then whatever we branded would not be Validide. So we kept the corporate name.
Okay.
But now we hired a New York firm, PR firm, Rosie Labs, just get a plug in for them. And we went down the whole branding thing. So we've got a bunch of brands that we've created around identity management.
Okay.
And the best one out of it for our digital wallet was Thrivacy. So we want to protect your privacy so you can thrive in the world with the freedom we all deserve.
Yep.
That's our tagline.
Awesome.
And it actually turns out to be a pretty cool name. So
yeah. So how many products have you developed? Is Thrivacy the only one, or
yeah, we've been hyper focused on a digital wallet.
Okay.
I can tell you another idea we have that's going to be branded because we already have a trademark on it. So this goes a little bit deeper into identity. So you have your digital wallet. This is your, this is your digital wallet, and this is your real wallet, and they're pretty much the same. Okay. If you've heard anything about this thing ultimately called Web3, or the metaverse, so what the heck is this metaverse thing? So basically, it's virtual and augmented reality coming together into 4D reality on the internet, basically. Your identity is going to be so at risk, because right now we call Apple, I call them the GAFTM, Google, Apple, Amazon, Facebook, Twitter, and Microsoft, and everybody that they represent. They're centralizers. They want to be in control, and then all their information is in one place, so hackers like to go after it. We also call them the surveillance kings, because they are taking everything that we are doing online and in the physical world, because they're tracking us as we drive around and do all that kind of stuff. Taking all that data, they are selling it and sharing it between each other and doing all that kind of stuff, to where they're not just sending ads to us. They're actually directing us to doing certain activities. And there's research to prove all that.
That's right.
Just think about when you put this huge headset on and you're going to be immersed in a virtual world where, as a matter of fact, there's an article I wrote about. So Facebook has which is now called Meta. They have patents. They have patents on how to read your face reaction when you're in a virtual reality environment.
Oh, okay.
So that they can see the reaction you have on something that's going on. So they can see where you're looking in this virtual world, what you're looking at. If I'm looking at that drone flying around or whatever's happening, that they're going to register that, right? And if I'm snarking at it, or if I'm like, cool, or if I'm saying, oh, shoot the drone, they're keeping track of all that stuff by not just facial recognition, but understanding facial semantics, or whatever the word is.
And selling it as part of what.
But that's what we have to protect ourselves. Right?
Because they're selling it as part of
next product.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, because aren't they selling that as part of like the whole neuromarketing? Because they're tracking all that. They're selling out that.
I mean, there's advertisers and agencies.
So many brands are pouring into the metaverse. Yeah.
So our next product is really an evolution of our digital wallet, and we call it the Indiverse. So INDI verse. And basically that's your individual universe. So we call it the Indiverse, and it's basically just a giant vault holding all of your digital assets. So we're focused on verifiable credentials in the Thrivacy digital wallet. But you have NFTs, non-fungible tokens that you're buying for artwork, and a whole bunch of other things that we could go down the rabbit hole to talk about. Your cryptocurrency, there's going to be a whole, the weapons you're buying in Fortnite,
right?
The land you're buying in Decentraland, all these things are represented as digital assets that if you don't have it in what we call a truly decentralized environment that you're in control of, the industry that we're in calls this self-sovereign identity.
Okay.
So if you're not in control of your stuff and protecting your identity, and then creating ways to switch your identity as you're going out into all these environments, then they're going to be making money off of you without your permission. And so what the Indiverse is doing is taking the idea of the Thrivacy digital wallet to being able to hold all your digital assets in one place as you go in and out of these different environments.
Wow.
And you can have different avatars for different environments. And so it basically makes the big tech companies, makes it hard for them to track and trace you on what you're doing.
So how are you figuring out what's the next move? It's like, it sounds like it's really like a stay one step ahead, or, go to where the puck is going kind of thing. So like, what are you looking at in the landscape to figure out what's the next move and the next need?
Revenue is our early revenue is the thing we have our eyes on right now.
Yeah.
And our early revenue is in the employment and education space.
Okay.
Okay.
So in regards to Thrivacy, it's okay. You got a LinkedIn profile, you have all your stuff on there. We want to verify it, and then we want to convert each of those attributes or credentials into a verifiable credential, its own digital asset that has proof is on the blockchain, and so it's immutable.
Mm-hmm.
So that means you can't change it. That way, the receiver, who in this case would be an employer or your professional association, or even if you're applying to grad school, will receive your digital assets directly from you. We call it peer-to-peer, without having to hire a third-party background check company that takes 3 months to verify all this stuff.
So
right?
that was the need you
So they would be able
identified.
to verify it instantly and could hire you on the spot.
Okay. So that streamlining, you were like, there's got to be, like you were saying, it took 3 months. The streamlining was the opportunity that you decided to dive into.
Well, and that benefits both the employer
Correct.
and the employee.
Yeah.
Oh, it lowered their costs
my
because this
goodness.
thing costs $80. Actually, it probably costs more for me because I've got 4 degrees and I've lived all over the place, and I have a weird work history. So it probably took them more. It probably was a good couple $100 for them to do a background check on me. But the average is about $80. So if you eliminate that for the employer, and then I'm in control. So once I do all my stuff, then I can hold on to it. The only thing that has to be updated, we would want to check to make sure your driver status is still in play if you're going to be a driver. Let's say we did my criminal background check in February for 7 years. So that's all been checked, verified, immutable record. We don't have to recheck it. Now we just have to check from today back to February. And that's a lot less than the 7 year.
Right.
And the other cool thing about it is the individual could do it and be responsible for that payment, because now that becomes a permanent record that they're holding in their wallet.
Right.
And they can use it for any job application that they're submitting. It doesn't have to be that one employer.
Yeah.
So what we're doing is we're giving the candidate, the individual, control over their information. They decide who to share it with, and they can revoke it.
Oh.
So we call this the intention economy, thanks to Doc Searle. So the intention economy is basically a way to where, okay, you don't know who I am, but I'm gonna put my credentials out there for you to do an RFP, a request for proposal. So I'm sending out, I want to get a mortgage, for example. So I put my financials out there and the kind of house and all that kind of stuff that I want, but they don't know who I am. And then I get 20 companies give me a proposal. I pick the one that I want to do business with. Then they could get my data. The other 19, I revoke access. So now they don't put my data in their database for hackers to go after.
Gotcha.
So this is the part of the whole puzzle that's security focused, to where your data is not floating around all over the place.
Yeah.
So,
Today, your personal information is on about 1,000 databases around the world.
Yeah.
wow. So these ideas are really interesting. And you said you work with folks who are in academia and they're trying to get their ideas into a business model, out of the books, out of the textbook. Are there even textbooks anymore? And into the marketplace. So what kinds of struggles or advice do you have for people who are like you, understanding a technology from that perspective, but like, how do you turn that into a business?
Yeah.
Well, so I start with the person. So you could have the greatest idea on earth, but I need to find out whether you're the one who wants to bring it to market, or do you want to license it and sell it to another company that's going to take it to market? So that's kind of the first question, especially in academia, because most of academia is very similar to the tech developer guy. So you can create the coolest technology that nobody's going to buy, right? And because you're just really smart at coding, right? And you think there's a problem for it, but the functionality and the user experience is terrible. So it doesn't scale, right? So it's the same thing with academia. These guys are subject matter experts, but they have no earthly idea on, my career, my doctorate's in health administration.
Oh my.
So in the 90s,
Yeah.
I was working with physicians as managed care was coming to market and their margins were getting more narrowed and the doctors were trying to figure out how to really run their business because they were making so much money, they didn't have to run their business.
Yeah.
Right. But then when managed care came, their margins were there. They had to figure out how to run a business.
Right.
So that's how I kicked off my whole career, was teaching physicians how to run a business. And it's the same thing with academia, and then the tech, in the tech industry itself is, okay, you might have a great idea. You might have already built something, but I have to understand, or you truly have to understand what it's going to take to bring it to market if you really want to do that or not. Because first of all, it's not easy. And then second of all, it's like the name of your show. It's chaos, right? And yes, you can get a bunch of mentors and advisors to help you do it, but you got to have the personal fortitude to put up with just a bunch of BS just to get your idea out there, where you might just be able to license your stuff to somebody who's already got the channels to go down and all this stuff, which I recommend that highly.
Because it's hard to start.
This is not my first rodeo. I helped take a company public, and it was actually a physician practice management company. We went public in the mid 90s. And so that was my first one. And then a couple of acquisitions along the way. And I'm hoping this is my last rodeo.
You're like, you jump right back in, right? You're like, oh no.
Yeah. But my wife allows me to do it, so I do it. She's ready to retire, and she's ready for me to stop doing that.
So as part of your journey, because you've had, that's wild. How different the businesses that you've been in. What have been your biggest, oh shit, oh crap, what has happened? Whether it's with Validity or past experience that you would say, entrepreneur to entrepreneur, founder to founder.
Here's something that
here's something
badly.
Yeah.
Well, I will tell you that my biggest frustrations have been based on timing. Okay. So I in 97, which was my last background check. That's because I left the practice management business about a year and a half after we went public, because I knew that healthcare was not going to be able to manage this new healthcare managed care without information systems.
Right.
So in 97, I found one of the, I figured I needed to go to work for a tech company to figure this thing out. So I joined National Data Corporation, which is in Atlanta, in DC. They basically were a credit card processor, but they built the pharmacy claims business on top of this credit card network. And then they grew from there in healthcare. So anyway, I joined them to learn the business. Well, I left in January of 2000 to do my first startup. And less than a year later, the whole internet busted. So my doctoral research was based on 1999 data. And I was researching healthcare's adoption of internet-based technologies to communicate with their patients. So will you communicate with your patient via email, text messaging? Will you let them go to your website and schedule an appointment? You still can't do that.
Yeah.
And it's been 21 years. So when I left in January of 2000, we were going to build the first web interface. We did build it, but we were going to build a billing company for doctors, where on the doctor side of it, it was a World Wide Web page, web interface that was very easy compared to the way it was. And it was right before the internet bust. So that was timing. So that one was bad.
Yeah.
Then another one I created, Guardian Watch. So this was a live streaming app So if you're a person walking down the street and you see a 911 incident, whether it's a fire or a crime or whatever it is, you can open up the app and start live streaming from the scene so that first responders can see what's going on at the scene before they get there. This was in 2010.
Wow.
Pretty early.
10 years too early.
Yeah.
So I created live streaming in 2010. I actually won the South Carolina launch competition.
Oh,
wow.
okay.
In 2010 for that. I got $5,000. And then my wife said, well, you can start that company if you can get 5,000 more. So I asked a buddy of mine and he gave me 5,000. So I had $10,000 to start up. So I was allowed to do it, but it didn't work because people they didn't understand what live streaming was yet.
Right.
And all. And actually the idea came as a result of, I don't know if you remember it. So in 2009-ish, I think it was, the sofa warehouse fire in Charleston, where the roof collapsed on top of 9 firefighters, killing them. And that was the largest incident of first responder deaths since 9/11. Well, there was a person who was stuck in the warehouse, and they were able to get him out, and so he didn't die. But what if he had a live streaming capability on his phone that he had called to tell him he was inside, so that the fire chief who made the decision could see that it was stupid to send in the firefighters because the roof was getting ready to collapse.
Yeah.
Right. So that was where the idea came, but it was too early. I did partner with the company that manages 85% of all 911 calls. So if you make a phone call, 911, it goes to this company, and then they switch it to your local emergency thing. And so they ended up, let's put it this way, I was absorbed by them. I can't technically say it was a sale to them, but I got a really good job out of it. without having to go through a background check.
Good thing, because it would have taken 3 months.
That's right.
Yeah. And then the deal would have been dead.
Right. Well, Gordon, this has been great. We've already gotten to the end of our time together, but thank you so much for your insights. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
thank you. I appreciate what y'all are doing.
I appreciate what you're doing. I also think that I liked where you were going with of becoming an advocate for blockchain, because actually you're getting people to really understand the tech and the dangers of really what's happening out there as far as like data and privacy. So I
will say, put in a plug real quick. So in 2017, when I first started getting into this, we had to educate South Carolinians on what this stuff is. I'm talking from Henry McMaster to the legislature to the agencies, so that they wouldn't throw us in jail for what we were doing. So I co-founded the South Carolina Emerging Tech Association with a guy by the name of Dennis Faciliotis out of Charleston. He's the executive director, and that's exactly what we're doing. We're a 501c6, so we can talk to legislators.
Lobby. Yep. Okay.
Yep. So we can lobby.
Yep.
And so we've had 4 pieces of legislation in the South Carolina legislature. It's still working their ways in. But one thing that we did do is educate the treasurer's office. So the treasurer was and I don't know if it's fully passed yet, but I will say that it's public because they had it on public radio. We have a budget now for the treasurer's office to do research on cryptocurrency and blockchain.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
So they're going to establish the office of, I think it might be like the Office of Digital Assets or something like that. And Dennis knows more about that because he does this day-to-day stuff. But anyway, so I would say go to South Carolina Emerging Tech Association, which is SCETA.io.
Okay.
So sketa.io.
Okay.
You can join as an individual or join as a company or as an agency, government entity, or anything like that. We're hyper focused on emerging tech. So blockchain, cryptocurrency, artificial intelligence, things like that, that don't compete with some of the other tech associations in the state. So we're hyper focused on that. But
Great.
yeah.
That's
Thanks for
fantastic.
that.
Yeah, we're an advocate for this stuff.
Check them out.
I appreciate it. All right. Nice to meet you. And thank you for
Same here.
everything. Yeah. So everyone can listen to this podcast across all of your favorite podcast platforms, Spotify, Pandora, iTunes, wherever. But you can also listen or watch, because we're fantastic on camera.
All these cameras
All
are
these cameras
putting
in
to
the
good use.
studio.
That's why I'm wearing a shirt.
I mean, you didn't have to. We appreciate it.
But you can watch it. You can go to our website. It can be orangewhip, WIP.com, or Hello Chaos podcast is also accessible through our City Innovates zines that we've launched in the 3 South Carolina markets this year. And that is GVLinnovates.com or ChazInnovates.com,
Charleston,
or ColaInnovates.com.
Columbia.
And it's
hotter here.
It's accessible information. It's gated, but it's free. We just need your name and email. That's it.
Simple. And maybe one day Gordon will help us get past that to where we can break that barrier and people will.
Yeah. I mean, when you have an identity, it won't matter whether they give you their email or not. You won't know who they are.
You know what? That's okay. We just want to share the stories of folks like you and all the other great entrepreneurs that we talk with. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, it's my pleasure too. I'm glad y'all are here.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye-bye, Gordon.
Bye.